Over the course of his career, he has led the airport teams and programs for Las Vegas and the state of Maryland. Paul has also led teams at multiple industry-leading airlines. Mr. Bobson holds a BS and an MBA from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And Paul, we'll turn it over to you.
Hi, well, good morning, everyone. I appreciate the invitation to join your group and just provide you an update on air service development and our recovery here. So just give me a second and hopefully, can everyone see?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just I just have a few slides to update here. If it moves forward, there we go. So, you know, I know you've received an update over the last year, but we're really looking back to see where our recovery is compared to the past couple of years. And, you know, we definitely were slow to recover due to the natural market of it being predominantly a business market and many in the region not traveling. But over the past several months, really the last 2 quarters, we finally turned the corner and we're seeing, you know, positive year-over-year increases in passenger recovery in the market. So far, we've released the January and February passenger numbers for both airports. So, you know, we do like to look at both airports just to provide a comparison. Of course, Reagan is leading the recovery across our airport system. We had 1.2 million passengers and just over 1.4 million in February. The March numbers aren't out yet, but I have seen them, and you know the trends remain positive. If you've flown anywhere in the past 2 months or tried to buy a plane ticket, you can definitely see that open seats are limited and prices are really high because the demand is really been unprecedented for our airline partners. Looking at Dulles, the recovery has definitely been a little bit slower to come back, and that's been led by 2 things. One, continued labor shortage across the industry, and you know what that really is those individuals who maybe threw bags or something like that, or maybe worked in catering. Since those jobs have come back, they have not come back to those positions. They found work at other places, and that goes for pilots, flight attendants, everything. All of our airline partners, domestic and international, continue to report issues, and that's going to continue to artificially hold back recovery across all of our airline partners. But you know, I'll show you on a few slides that things are looking positive, even more so for Dulles throughout the year. So our combined numbers, again, we can continue to track upward, still below the 2019 peak, but well below the trough that we saw. And you know, throughout the year, we're still cautiously optimistic to have a really strong year, especially as we're seeing increased demand across both leisure and business travelers. One thing that I always like to do is look at scheduled seats into the market, and this is publicly available information. But what this really is, we are able to see how many seats our airline partners have out to the market right now. So if you're going to buy a flight, or you know, maybe you're going to fly from here to London or here to Las Vegas, you know, those are scheduled seats into the market, and so we can look and get an idea of how carriers feel about the market based on the capacity that they've put in. As you compare 2019, the peak year, to 2022 so far this year, you can see that 22 has continued to lag behind. But what we're really positive about is as we get towards the end of the 3rd quarter into the 4th quarter, things really start to turn positive, and we're finally seeing 22 numbers overlap 2019 scheduled seats. And this has really been led by some of our international partners. When we look at who was operating 3rd quarter of 2022 versus 3rd quarter 2019, and who has more capacity into the market by seats, we're really seeing our international partners lead that. So for example, Turkish are up 120% versus the same time in 2019. That's 65,000 additional seats into the market at that time. Qatar Airways is up to almost twice daily. That's almost 40,000 seats. British Airways has brought the 380 back and upgrades to a 777 for the other daily time channel. So, you know, as we're seeing these services come back, carriers are seeing the demand of the market, especially on the international side, and really driving the recovery at Dulles. And also not to point out Ethiopian there at the bottom, who just announced new service to Tomé. We'll also just, you know, look at Reagan to see, again, how that recovery is leading. Now, of course, Reagan continues to be pushed because of the slot constraints and the requirement to use those. So that will naturally lead Reagan's recovery to come back faster. But we do think it's a strong indicator of the market that as of the third quarter of this year, the scheduled seats into that market will be 10% greater than what they were at 2019. So really significant numbers we're seeing there. And to think that the passenger traffic has still not recovered. But who is leading that? Of course, our largest partner there, American, almost 800,000 additional seats into that market at the same time, and then followed by Alaska and JetBlue. So when you really think about Project Journey and different things that have been completed over the past couple of years, that's going to allow the facility to handle these additional passengers as American and our other airline partners drive more through the facility. You know, especially for Dulles and our partners out here, we want to hit on the new international service that's recently been announced that you might have seen in the news. But a few weeks ago, in the last month, Ethiopian announced new service. So this new 3 times weekly service to Lomé, Togo will start June 1st. So this service is in addition to the Addis service that they already have. So once this service launches, they will have 10 weekly frequencies that either continue on to Addis or stop in Lomé. What's really important here for this African connection, especially for the local traffic, the VFR, visiting friends and family traffic that we have, is Ethiopian's connection with Sky Airlines. That connection, that one-stop connection, opens up more than 24 destinations within Africa. So through this, you know, again, nonstop international service by our partners from Ethiopian, we're really connecting to almost every significant market across Africa with one stop. Iberia, we're really excited about this service. It was originally announced to launch in spring of 2020, but of course the pandemic happened. But they're going to be coming back and starting the service on June 1, actually commencing the service to Madrid, 4 times weekly service. So this is great as a One World partner, you know, another way to be able to get to Europe. The Madrid hub that they have is significant. You can connect anywhere onto Europe and Asia from there. So we're really excited about this service and looking forward to launching that next month. Over the past few weeks, our partners from Allegiant have expanded service at Dulles. Over the past 2 weeks, they've launched Austin and Nashville with twice weekly service. So they're now up to 4 markets, and we're really excited about this because Allegiant is really one of the only, is the only ultra low cost carrier at Dulles. So it allows us to provide, you know, a product for all of our passenger segments, from the highest end, fullest service to, you know, the ultra low cost service where passengers can pick what services they need most. So again, great success by Allegiant, and we hope that they continue to expand there. And finally, you know, our largest partner, United, continues to drive the market. So today, you know, a great plug for this, the 3 times weekly service to Amman, Jordan launches tonight. So this is significant for us. It is United's first service across their global network to Amman, Jordan. And of course, they have picked Dulles. They're really, you know, the capital gateway, and really focused on that Middle East and Africa traffic. So we're really excited about this. We have a huge event planned tonight with the ambassador, several VIP speakers. The service is booking well, and we encourage people who want to visit that region. Absolutely amazing region with history and everything, and adventure and tours to go out and visit these flights. Also, you just want to hit on too, tomorrow, United restarts Athens, Barcelona, Edinburgh, and Madrid. These are all daily services. So summer is here and that international peak is happening. So all of these daily flights happen again starting tomorrow. So the airport will be even busier, and we're expecting strong passenger recovery. Anytime I get a chance to talk to our local partners, I always like to stress a few things. But, you know, my philosophy with air service development is based around 3 things: data, the airport experience, and the community and community partners that we have. And so, really driving home that message and identifying opportunities for us to be able to work together. So, 3 things I always say how our community partners can help. I like to say, you buy local and fly local. So it's so important. I heard some on the call earlier, talking about flying recently, and especially if you're flying internationally, it is so important for you to book the nonstop flight out of Dallas. It might be a little bit cheaper for you to connect over JFK or Atlanta, but we need all of those nonstop international passengers, especially those flying in premium cabin, to book that nonstop out of Dallas. That continues to show the airline partners, our local community's commitment and willingness to pay, the fares out of Dallas to help drive additional traffic. I always like to say you can move airplanes out of airports. And so we are continuously exploring opportunities to demonstrate our community stakeholder involvement. When our new airlines, when Ethiopian or Iberia, look to learn, who is in the community, who is traveling, who are those local regional and ethnic and local leaders that they can connect to. We look to, be able to look at a Rolodex and provide that information on. So, as I've explained flight today, and if you have any ideas on how we can connect you with our airline partners, we'd love to do that. And then finally, something that we've really been focused on, because one of the areas of significant growth that we've had in air service over the last 2 quarters has been to Latin America. Our partners from Avianca have launched several additional routes, and Volaris as well. So we're looking especially for, Spanish speaking, local community on how we can get together and let them know that you can fly nonstop out of Dallas now to these markets. Again, you don't have to connect over Miami or JFK or another airport, Houston, to get there. You can fly nonstop out of Dallas. And it's just getting that in front of everyone for them to know. So, again, like we said, we like to fly local and always remember how important it is to support our local airline partners. Because if not, they can send that $200 million asset somewhere else instead of our local community. So with that, that's all I have, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. Easy.
No, I just thought, since we have a small crowd here, if anybody wants to chime in and ask Paul any questions, please do so. And I see Keith is off mute.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, hell, I've got to. Paul, you were talking Ethiopian. Ethiopian has a huge network through Africa to begin with. What do you think led them to partner that way? Because I thought, running to Addis, if they increase the frequencies there, they'd end up hitting the same, ending up at the same end goal. I'm just curious about that.
So Ethiopian has, they do. As far as for an African flag carrier, they are one of the most profitable, if not the most profitable, the most stable, and have one of the most significant networks. So that's really focused, though, in their hub at Addis. So this flight continues on, and we still have 7 nonstop flights going directly there. That partnership with A-Sky Airlines is really for this Togo service, because that's kind of their local hub. So it's really, it allows them to expand their connection opportunities and drive more passengers without having to directly serve those markets. It's almost, even though it's not, I wouldn't call it, a United and United Express kind of tie-up. It's very similar to that, but it's still 2 completely separate airlines. It essentially allows them to connect. And the thing about A-Sky Airlines, they're smaller planes. So they're more of a 50-seat regional jet, maybe a turboprop that has 30 seats. Ethiopian is really more 737s, of course, 787s too. So it allows them to serve more markets without actually putting metal into the market.
That's great. Thank you. Let me ask you another one on, with a pilot shortage that isn't going to get solved anytime soon. And when gas was cheap, the airlines are going back to 50-seaters. Now, gas is up, the 50-seaters are parking them, the majors are stealing the pilots from the commuter network. What what are you getting in, in the trade, from your side as far as how that's going to impact United Express? Because a lot of our growth at Dulles has been feeding in from smaller, we campaigned for ages to bring that service down from Newark because they can fill every seat up in Newark they've got and put it at Dulles to complex flights. But I get a sense that the current dynamics between pilot shortage and fuel costs is going to impact us some way on that, even though United is still committed to growth. What do you see in the future on that?
Well, I can't speak for every airline, and of course, our observations here. But in the past couple of weeks, last week and this week, all of the first quarter earning calls have come through, and even United kind of mentioned that even with the higher fuel prices, they're still seeing a decent return because fares are just so much higher. So they're not necessarily feeling that pressure, but of course, it gets to a point to where oil is so high that it really starts to put pressure on their yield. So I don't think we're there yet. And as we move into the summer peak, that should help that. But as we get into the fall and winter shoulder, if prices are still high, that could potentially have an impact. It's simple supply and demand there with pricing. But with the pilot shortage, you've seen so many, just like United, they've launched their new aviation camps and they're trying to have a direct source in. Naturally, as we've seen here, even of them getting rid of most of the 50-seaters, they're trying to bring in larger aircraft with those same amount of pilots. So, using potentially mainline aircraft on flights that might have had a 50 or 76-seater. We are committed to, larger equipment. Of course, the new Tier 2 East terminal and the amount of gates there, and, that's kind of been laid out. So we definitely think there'll be growth more on the mainline side. But it's just going to be a natural occurrence. Most airlines have said that their focus is going to be more on mainline than regionals. But it's going to be a continued issue. There's been discussion out there of relaxing some of the requirements, but I think that's still a long ways off. And in the short term, we're going to face challenges. All of our airline partners have said that, and they've been public about that. And it's not just pilots. Pilots is the big thing because that's one of the most expensive, but you've got flight attendants and everyone else that has to touch your plane, from the lavatory to the bag to the person scanning your boarding pass, right? So that's where you look at maybe technology that could help resolve that, but none of that's going to happen quickly. And that takes years to develop. So in the short term, it's just going to limit growth. We're going to see strong growth. You look at the order books, but they can only put so much back into the system if they don't have bodies to work it.
Yeah, point well made. I mean, they're talking now starting salaries at Dulles over $17, $18 an hour. It's just, it's got to drive the rest of the equation up.
And that's something to think about. Everyone has different cost structures, but based on wages that have to be paid, it makes some places more expensive to operate than others. And so that could artificially limit growth as well. So there's always a lot of factors, but luckily, we have the second largest metro population here. We have a great population, a great group who wants to travel, great local business who travels and is getting back onto the road. So everything is pointing positive here and our flights are full. But, we just have to continuously watch and make sure we help tell our airline partners why Dulles and our airport system makes the most sense to point their, valuable assets to.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, Brandon?
I do. Hey, Paul, nice to see you again. Hope all is well. I have a couple of questions. First of all, and I'm not sure how much of your lane this is in, but local opportunities for local vendors to get into the terminals. I know with the airlines recovering, things like that. Is there a path of entry or kind of a process for getting some of our local vendors here that maybe make chocolates or food items or whatever else, or even local wares and clothing? Is there a path for them to kind of get into the airport, into the terminals?
Yep, and, you know, that's not directly in my lane, but it's part of the revenue group that I'm with, you know, with concessions and commercial retail. So I won't be able to speak directly about it, but we definitely have programs for small business or disadvantaged business enterprise, different categories for those groups, because of course we have some of the larger groups, but we have some of the smaller ones. What I'll do is let me get with our some of our other VPs in the revenue group, and I will if you want to send me an email, or my email is paul.bobson@mwaa.com. If you want to shoot me an email, then I will get it forwarded to the right person and get that answer for you. But I think, I know just in the past 2 months, we've had some workshops, and the organization is really focused on that, on making sure that we bring in local business. We're getting ready to, there is getting ready to be a concession RFP, which they go out to rebid a concession contract. And I know part of that is certain percentages are required to have certain, you know, amount types of business.
Right.
So that would be great to pass that information on to you right now, because that process is going before our board in the next couple of months.
Awesome, thank you. And then another, again, probably tertiary to you, again, it's fresh on my mind, is automated technologies, unmanned systems, and things like that. That's becoming more and more of a conversation, as again, as workforce shortages are kind of shifting to different things and leveraging technologies within the airport. Has there been conversations with MWAA about potential, again, other potential business opportunities, kind of leveraging those technologies in the terminal and around the area as well?
But, you know, I'm a big proponent of that. You know, I spent 10 years in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is one of the only fully common use airports in the United States, and definitely the world. And the common use technology, you know, allows any airline to use anything at any space. So, you know, we're looking at those features here because it allows us to do more with the same square footage that we have. Bringing in technology. And so many airline partners want that now, especially the low cost operators, when they are able to, and this is not cutting jobs, it's just utilizing their labor better. So they don't need 5 people at the ticket counters when they could use those 4 individuals to board gates, right? And they could operate more flights because the technology allows passengers to check in and drop their bag, and then they can use all of those same team members in other places and really expand and grow that way. Not cutting jobs here. That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
And so, you know, we're definitely looking at in that. It's a little bit more challenging just because the facility and the infrastructure and how we operate. But that's a focus that we have, and I'm on one of the groups with that. So, you know, I'd say stay tuned with that, but we're definitely looking at how we make sure that our terminal is ready for the growth that we expect over the next, you know, 1 to 5 years. As we get more international and as it expands, we need to be able to do more with the same box we have. And that kind of technology is part of that. And we, you know, we also look at other things like with Project Journey, again, different airport at Reagan, but things like the automated docking system that allows an aircraft to pull into the gate on its own without the marshaller. So that person then is able to do more things at that time. You know, we've brought that technology to some of our facilities, and we're looking at it at more gates here at Dulles. So there's lots of things out there. We're definitely looking at it, but it just takes time and, of course, the resources to make it happen. But it's definitely front of mind for us.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Brandon. Dave, did you have a question?
Yeah, my wife and I went to Florida last week or last month, and I'll tell you, we must have walked 10 miles up and down escalators and all that stuff and elevators. Is there any movement on the train in the Dulles Airport to continue? I think they were going to have a continuous loop in that train at one time. Is that being processed?
You know, as some of the drawings that have recently come out, you know, the proposed new tier 2 structure for the additional gates that are being built. You know, if you fly out of United right now and you take the train all the way out to those gates, there's kind of a walk back. Those new gates will be built on top of that station. So there is still an existing station out there that's where those gates are going to go. But you're right, there's part of the airport that doesn't have the air train, so still the mobile lounges are used for that. As of right now, there's no plan to do a full loop. But, you know, right now we're in a master plan study. I think just last week there was a meeting at the Dulles Marriott talking about the master plan. And these are great places to have these conversations because we have to be thinking about the long-term future and our passengers quickly able to get around the facility. So I know what you're saying though. If you're at an airline with one of those gates where you have to take the mobile lounge, it could take a little bit longer. But the AirTrain does go to 75% of our gates, which is nice for most passengers. But I definitely understand the frustration.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Jack?
Yes, Paul, good morning.
Hi.
This is Jack Vega. You mentioned low cost operators. How are the budget airlines faring during these inflationary times, and what does that put pressure? Does that put more pressure on them, or does it not have any effect?
It's hard to speak for all the carriers, but if you want to point out on how successful those carriers are right now, look at who is trying to buy each other. Frontier is trying to buy Spirit, two of the mainstays of the ultra low cost carriers. One that, merger for efficiencies, but they're both been extremely successful in their growth because they have such a low cost base. Just naturally, they're able to absorb some higher costs, but they always look for opportunities to operate more efficient. Spirit's a perfect example of self-bag technology. They are one of the first carriers in the United States to roll that out. At several Spirit airports, you don't even talk to an agent until you get to the gate. You can check in, drop your bag, the machine scans your face, and you send it off. You don't even have to show your ID. You tag your bag and go. And that's how they've been able to grow and keep their margins down. So, Allegiant's had a lot of success here. They've reported 90% load factors. And if you think too on who's traveling right now, those carriers are really geared towards one, price sensitive travelers, but more importantly, the leisure and VFR traffic. And that's who is flying right now and going to Las Vegas and Florida and the islands. And so they've really capitalized on that. So overall, they've had a lot of success. But as I said earlier, if fuel continues to go up or stay high, and as the demand wanes off, that's where we're going to see issues. But for right now, they've been successful, and we're hopeful to get more of that service at Dulles for sure.
Thank you.
Paul, out of curiosity, what other international markets are you trying to go after at the current time?
All of them. I won't go into any specifics, but we definitely have markets in every area. But just as we come out of the pandemic, things are more realistic. Just naturally, it's publicly out there that Asia has been slower to return, just as where all of a majority of those countries are with the pandemic. But we're really happy about our continued service to Korea on Korean. Of course, ANA to Tokyo continues to operate several days a week. So we're happy about that service, and we're hopeful it stays strong. But as I said, Latin America has been strong, the Middle East and Africa, and Europe's been a slow and steady push. Luckily, for us, we have a very strong international map, so there's not a lot of low-hanging fruit. Air service development's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes years to bring these things, but we definitely have focus on some markets in Asia, Africa, and really all over. We even look for close into home. There's still a lot of markets in the US that we don't have service from, or we need additional seats to that make a lot of sense. So we look domestic and international to bring more flights to the market.
Very good. I don't know how much you are aware of the committee for Dulles, but we are a member organization, and in short, we support Dulles Airport, the growth of its operations, and support the growth of the economic development corridors around the airport. We are here to help in any way, shape, or form we can. And I will reiterate what I have said often to the Dulles manager and Mr. Potter. If there are events going on like today with United in celebration of a new route, we are here to celebrate with you all. What we do is take in turn and let our community and through social media know what's going on. So, and I, with my association with Travelers Aid, I do have a pass, so I can go to the gates without any issue. So we're here to help in any way that we can with your mission to grow the airlines out at the airport.
That's fantastic. You know, I think as we look forward, June 1, I think let's focus on that day, because, you know, I've mentioned Iberia launches their new 4 times weekly service to Madrid. Ethiopian starts their new service to Tome, but also that day is really special for us because Emirates will bring back the A380 on that day daily. That's 137 additional seats into our market. Most of those are first class and business class seats, which are really important for our business traveler and those premium travelers who, you know, stay at a nicer hotel and dine and shop at our local businesses. So, you know, that day, I think we could definitely use the help on getting out everything that's going on, because it's 3 specific avenues in 3 different markets, but it really talks about our local community and the diverse nature that we have. So now let's continue those conversations offline and figure out a way that maybe you know, we can bring everyone together to help support all 3 of those announcements.
Sounds good. And I see Evan is listening into the conversation. If United needs any help tonight, let me know, Evan. I can get out to the airport. Let's see.
You said exactly what I was going to say. Just I see faces on the screen and names on the screen of people that are involved with this organization, volunteers, doers, you know, people who love to get things done and help the airport. So please keep that in mind, Paul, and thank you very much today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Paul, this is Mike Sawyers. He's our president. So any other questions or thoughts by anyone? All right, Joe, I'll turn it over to you to close it out. But thank you, Paul. I appreciate you coming to us today and giving us this presentation. Joe?
Yes, thank you, Paul. We really appreciate having you come. We hope that you become part of our Committee for Dulles community over the next few months and years as you work at Dulles Airport. And I want to thank all of our Committee for Dulles members who joined us today as well. Have a good day.